Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. And as Anton said, I want to share with you my latest career change, going from quality role to a product role. Please give me a thumbs up if you can already see my screen. This is my latest career change, and this is Embracing Change Volume 2 from quality to product role. And why is this Volume 2? Because there was already a Volume 1. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I was a tester in the team, but then I did my first career move of going from being a tester to becoming a quality coach. And I was not only a quality coach for my team, but I was assigned into a central team. We're a big company, and we had a central department of quality coaching, where my job there was to help people in a quality role become coaches for their team. What that meant in a nutshell, I helped people go beyond testing, help the developers in their team to also test their code, promote better quality process methods all over. And that was my first career change. So becoming from a tester in a single team to becoming a quality coach within the company. I have had there the slides and the recording of the previous career change. And one of the things that I heard in my role very, very often, and that came from both quality engineers, but also from developers sometimes, is that you had a lot of responsibility, but not so much authority to change things. So quality engineers would say, we see all these things that we could do more, but we can't. Also, there was always lots of work to be done. And somehow the work was not only, let's say, restricted sometimes only to testing, but there were many things regarding quality that was part of our job and we had to improve it. And we were actually the ones we had to do it. And we were always in the middle as quality people. And these were some of the things or some of the frustrations that I kept on hearing. Besides that, we need more time to invest in quality. Again, that came both from quality engineers, but from developers. We also need to do maintenance. We need to do things differently. Maybe we're not building the right things. So in this central role that I had, I heard these things a lot. And so I decided to make a change. So I became a product owner about 3 years ago now. There was a position available in the company to become a product owner for an internal tool that had to do with compliance. And because I was many years in these quality roles, I thought, okay, that's going to be great. I mean, I am one of the most knowledgeable people when it comes to tools and processes and compliance. I actually thought that going as a product owner for such kind of tool would be a very easy thing to do. And I was very, very, very wrong. It was not easy. There were things I did not know how to do. And I might have been naive, but I thought what would be the big difference? I mean, what do product owners do? And that became even worse when I moved to another team where we are setting up pipelines with our tool now. And my users, the end users of our product, were no longer quality engineers, but they're actually developers setting up pipelines. And there it was even more complicated because I also did not have the business domain of how to become a good product owner or everything. And basically, this is what this presentation, this introduction is all about, is how I went from being a person in a quality role into somebody into a product owner role, having all this quality experience under my belt for many years. And because I'm not a very, let's say, I like looking into books for answers. I think they're the place people have invested time in writing them. And for me, they're a good starting point when I want to learn something new. And what I knew from my quality experience very well was this quote from Accelerate. Accelerate is the book that brought the DevOps research and crystallized it and brought the results to the rest of the world. And one of the findings there was that the software delivery capability is actually beneficial for the company. In a nutshell, the better way you have of releasing software, the better your company performs. Of course, there are other things that need to be done for the company to perform, but having good delivery capabilities contributes to a successful company. And my understanding was that as a quality engineer, we directly contribute to the software delivery capability, to this, how do we produce the things that go out to production? How do we make sure that they go out fast, that they are of good quality, of good value? Our job as a quality engineers was basically helping as much as we can this software delivery capability. On the other hand, on product management side, I started again reading some books, and Escaping the Build Trap came out more or less around the same time that I started. And the definition that it had there about what a product manager is and what they do is that they try to keep the team focused on the why. Why are we building something? What value will it bring to the end users? How will this change people's lives or their experience with what they do? And for me, that was a bit of a crucial key point to understand what is happening. So the product manager, on one hand, had to optimize the why are we building this. The quality engineers, on the other hand, we were looking at the how. How are we building this thing? And we tried to optimize for that. So I studied math many years ago. So I thought, okay, how do I formalize this? So as a quality engineer, what do I know about the how we produce? I know a lot, right? But how does that affect my role as a product manager? How can I bring that in? On the other hand, as a quality engineer, where did I affect the why are we building what we do? Did I have any relatable knowledge? And finally, as a product manager, what am I supposed to do with that? So if I would change it a bit, I thought, okay, what was I bringing as a quality engineer to the how and the why? And what did I have to change moving from a quality role to a product role, to the how and the why? So to the how, as I said before, that I believe is our strong point as quality engineers. We have all this experience. We know how long it takes to test something. We know how long it takes from actually developing something until it's production ready. We know that when a team invests in collaborative work to do things together, things end up going faster than before. We also know that having a lot of technical debt, usually it's going to come back and at some point bite us. We have this knowledge, and this is something I think that is very valuable when we bring it to the product side, because we can create a very balanced backlog. We understand the benefits of releasing new functionality, but we also know how long it takes. What are the, let's say, the back and forth that need to be done until something is really ready. And I think that's something that we can really have under our belts, develop a balanced backlog. And not only for our team, but that also extends when we're talking outside our team and talking to other product teams. It also helps because we know that bigger infrastructure might be needed. We know how to bring all these things together and create something that is, let's say, more predictable. And I think that's appreciated by everyone. But there were also some things that I had to change now that I was a product manager. And I think the first and fundamental change was that I was no longer a tester in the team. And that meant that it was not really my full-time job to test functionality. And I know that might sound a bit, yeah, now you have a different job. But it's very hard to leave this behind, to say, I'm not testing this. My team is not, I'm not sitting with the team to test something, not only me, but I'm not participating in the testing. And as a product owner or product manager, I don't have the time to actually invest in that. So I really, really, really need to rely on the team that they have sat down together. And by the time it comes to me, it's really functional, it's performant, it's accessible, it has all the good qualities of a good tested software. I I can't avoid, I won't lie, I can't avoid, but sometimes I like testing, but it's since it's not my job anymore, I really need to rely on others to do it. The other thing I also had to change is that the team, not only the testing, they need to come up with a process that's good for everyone to improve the workflow. Again, as a quality coach, that was lots part of my job, optimizing pipelines, having tests running in parallel, removing bottlenecks. All of these things were part of my job, but not anymore. Again, I can help and nudge wherever needed, but this is not something that I can focus on anymore. And the last thing I had to change was actually learn to say no to colleagues. I don't know how many of you have experienced that, but in a quality role, I was very used to saying yes all the time. Yes, can we test this? Yes, can we improve this? But it was more of a, yeah, I can come in and to help there, and as much as I could. But on the product owner side, you have to learn to say no a bit to your colleagues because you need to prioritize. And since you need to prioritize, some things will be a bit lower than others. And learning to say no to people you work with, at least for me, it was a bit of harder to learn. When it comes to the why, I thought, okay, so what do product managers again do? Another book that came out around the same time is Continuous Discovery Habits by Teresa Torres. And there she had a very interesting definition that product managers find opportunities, and opportunities are customer needs, pain points, and desires. Okay, I said, what do we know about needs, pain points, and desires as quality people? Pain points, I think we all know quite a lot. Again, this is a slide from the old presentation, from tester to quality coach. And there I made the argument that as a quality coach, it makes sense to investigate how people receive our software when they're upset. Usually that's when they report bugs, or write nice emails. When they're not telling us anything, are they still using the software? And also when they're happy, when they have a good word to say, what was that thing that made them happy? And this is a slide from that presentation. And I had it in there because I thought, if you look into these things, that improves the testing that you do because you focus on the right things. But let's have a look at it. So one of the things I had in there is that analyze the reasons of the negativity. Maybe what we often saw is that people would open a bug ticket and they would say, that's a bug, that's a bug. And we would keep on replying, no, that's not a bug, it's a feature, works as designed. And this is the way why you don't understand why this is as it's supposed to work. But if something is really not understood by anyone and everybody perceives it as wrong, maybe it is wrong. It's not what the people need. It doesn't solve their pain points the way we have done it. So there was already reasons to analyze the negativity and find out what are the things we can actually improve by looking at them. The other thing that wasn't there is that sometimes we need to shadow people and see how they actually use our software. Again, that was from the perspective, where do they get stuck? Where can we do better? But this is actually finding the opportunities to improve the software. So that was something we already knew how to do. And finally, one of the good things to know is how the people actually use the software. What are the things that they use most often and they're successful in what they want to do? And that gave me a bit of ammunition in knowing how to collect data about people using the software, not people, not their IDs, but the process that they use to be successful. And this kind of insights are very, very useful when you want to improve the why. What is the next thing you need to do to bring more value to your end users? As testers, what we often do is get into the customer's shoes and we advocate for the user. And this is something very, very important in product management as well, to identify these needs, the pain points. This is the desires that people have. As testers, we have that a bit under our belt because we know the software a bit end to end, but we also have this perception of the user. We always observe what they're doing. We always try to empathize with them and get into their shoes as much as they can. So we really have this customer perspective. And finally, for the why. One of the things that changed a lot going from a quality to a product management role was the talking. There's lots of talking in product management. The first thing that I had to learn how to do, especially when I was a product owner for the compliance tool, was to put away my own personal beliefs and opinions and actually listen to what people were telling me. So I had this opportunity to have this great compliance tool, but not the one that I would have liked to have, but what would actually help our users. So learning to talk to people, putting your own personal beliefs in the back was something that I really needed to practice and learn how to do. Then again, when I changed positions and I had to talk to people that I was not a domain expert by any means, and to be able not to fear talking to them, to build up confidence to talk to them, to think that I can find the right questions to ask them. That was, again, it is still a very big challenge because you're talking to people that they're experts on something, but you still need to narrow it down and try to identify what would be the next thing for them to give them value. And overcoming the fear and feeling confident to do that, it's something that I needed to practice on a lot. And the last thing, but definitely not the least thing, is that you also need to talk to people that are in your organization. You're not talking only to people in your team and the users, but you talk to people higher up, and you really need to understand what the constraints that they're having and what are their needs. And you need to link the two, the link of the needs of the users with the needs of the company, and learning to talk to them and really understand, because sometimes it's very clear what they need, but sometimes it's not. And learning to talk to them and see what the reasons are for going to a certain direction and what constraints they have, what are the things that they give you money for and what they cannot give you money for. And understanding the two and putting the two together, that also took a lot of talking and lots of learning how to talk, learning when not to talk. I was a big change from the quality role, at least for me. And finally, if there was a big change, is that as a product owner, product manager, you need to bring in the stories. So you have users that they have all these ideas, and if I would use a metaphor there, you need to throw a net and catch them. But the net needs to be thrown in such a way, it needs to be made in such a way that you only take in the stories that are really good, the needs that are really the good ones. And learning how to create this net, what are the tools in product management to get the best stories, to get the best results. This is something that I'm constantly learning. If I would continue the metaphor, the product owner, product manager throws this net and sorts out the fish, but then the quality role would come in and the development role would come in and make sure that the fish go to the market and they're still in a good state, right? These are the best fish that we can catch, and we bring them to the market in the best state. But learning how to make this this net and how to sort it out, what are the better ones in comparison with the other ones? Is it the heavier ones? Is it the lighter ones? Of course, there are many tools and frameworks in product management that help with that, but this is another world of learning how to do the job. So if I were to summarize what I have been doing, it's basically in the how I was bringing. I always look to give time for quality. With a balanced backlog, there's always time to do activities that improve the overall how we produce things. On the other hand, I needed to change to leave testing behind and trust the team that they will do proper, good testing because I was not part of that process anymore. On the why, I think as quality engineers, we have all this experience in analyzing customer input, in getting into the customer's shoes, having the empathy to understand their problems. And I think that's really beneficial when turning into the product side. On the other hand, we're out of now testing the stories, but we are in the job of collecting the stories. And there's a whole lot of tools to learn how to actually do that. So finally, I thought, okay, now that as a product manager, I would have a bit more authority to change things. I would have, I don't know, the right people in the right places to do the things and not to have to do everything and not be in the middle of the time. But unfortunately, that's also the definition of a product manager. So, and this is from Product Management in Practice, also another great book. But it was a bit eye-opening to see, okay, so that doesn't change very much. And it is a different job and it does require a different skill set. But all in all, I think as quality engineers, we do have the tools we need to get there. So if you're interested in a similar path, let me know. I would be happy to hear from you. So thank you. And I have added here the books if you want to have a look.
Thank you very much. It was a great talk, and I really appreciate you created this metrics. It looks like very tough from mathematics perspective and so on. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
May I ask some questions
Sure.
First, and then maybe our audience will not be shy and ask them too. So as a tester, I feel like if I work every day, I can measure that something is done. For example, stories is tested or we shipped some release. So I can feel that I'm doing something and this is ending somewhere. The question for you, how do you measure your work now as a product manager?
You don't have you don't deliver something, right? You don't have anything to deliver. You don't deliver an artifact. The best thing you can, or what you can do, is see what you deliver to the end user if it's actually used, right? Or if it's not used. And if it's not used, then you iterate and say, how can we make something more useful than before? But there is no real end. And the only success you can get is that if your whole team is successful. Because there is no, you don't say, I did the tests and the tests are running and we're catching bugs. There's no such thing. The only thing you can do is deliver and the product is going forward. But you don't know if it will be the one feature that will make it successful or better than before. So you keep on measuring and you say, okay, this took us a bit better. Oh, this took us back. But there's no artifact. You can't really measure your work, and actually you shouldn't really measure your work with how many emails or how many items, or only if your product is successful and the people that are working to create it are well. These are the only two things that you can measure. That not everybody is burned out. If you create a backlog which is burning everybody up, that's not good. And if the product is not doing well, that's also not good. But there's no other artifact to measure, at least that I know of, or that I found in literature.
So you have to constantly sync up with the team to understand how they feel and then make some assumptions regarding their work, right?
Yeah. And you can't pressure, at least I find it quite unnecessary to pressure people. People do the best they can, I don't know, in a healthy environment at least. they do their best work, and just because you would like things to be faster, they just don't happen. And we try to remove bottlenecks for people to be creative and good at their work. But these are the things to take care. But you can't produce something to make their work better, right? Or the product better, because you don't code, you don't give something, you just facilitate all of this.
You're shaping the future.
you get all the information and you try that everything works out in a good way, but you don't produce something. And it can be frustrating. That's true. It can be frustrating. They say, I feel like I did nothing all day.
Yeah, it would definitely frustrate me, because I'm a person who wants every single week to understand that I left something. And if I don't understand it, I'm getting like very frustrated and unhappy after it.
Sometimes a good email that aligns people, or getting out of a meeting and say, oh, we all know what to do now, and okay, and then you see this go live and it's good. But this is a constant process. It's very hard to measure.
Okay, and the second question that comes to my mind is about product itself, because QA engineers are known as best users of the product, because they're using it over time every single day. And I'm wondering, from product manager perspective, is it changed somehow, or you still know everything about the product, or you're like helicopter view, just understand the big chunks of the product?
I guess it depends on how big your part is, so how well you know it. I think you don't have a detailed understanding, at least my experience, I don't have as detailed understanding as I did as a quality engineer, but I don't need to, because I don't need to know the software from the risk of implementation point of view. So if we have a good story to implement, I depend on the others. That's the thing. You need to depend on the team to tell you, but you know what? This functionality comes in direct contrast to what we have there. And there is a risk we might jeopardize that, because you can't have that, because technically something will not work, or there is a contradiction. So no, you have a more helicopter view, because you depend on a group of people to have the complete view.
Is it frustrating for you?
You're muted.
You previously like touched every single bit of the product, and now you just need to.
Even back then, I was not. I knew most of it in my role. Every single bit, whether the database would behave with, I did not know. But now it's even less than what I used to know.
Yeah, I mean from user perspective, not from technical one.
Even from a user perspective, I know most of it. Yeah, I don't know if I know more than I did as a quality engineer or less. I definitely know a lot of it. That's in comparison, I would say then, if it's not from a technical perspective. From an end user perspective, I would say, but maybe because I come from a quality engineering background and that I do that. I don't know how other product managers do it, to be honest. I want to know still what the software does very well, to a certain point.
From my perspective, unfortunately, some product managers are working only with mockups and some designs without even touching the real product, and that's.
For me, it would be very hard to understand it, but that's my personal thing. I wouldn't be able to know how to ask people questions about something I don't understand myself. So I wouldn't be able to work that way. So maybe others are more comfortable, they can get all the information that they need without actually having the details. I need to know a bit more to feel more comfortable.
Sorry, yeah, one trend that I have seen, like especially in Northern America and in India, is there's a software engineer, and let's say he's a manual tester, and he's not that much willing to learn automation, and he feels or she feels that she's stagnant. And the move they do is they move to product side, not because they are passionate towards product side, but just they feel, okay, now I'm stagnant here. The only move I can make is to product side. And sometimes that switch, they do that switch to product side, but still they have the mindset of a tester. So have you seen that shift happening a lot, just not by what you like, but just because people feel they don't have a more choice to grow in the current role, and they just switch to products to grow there without having a passion to do that?
I haven't seen, I have seen it, but I don't have a concrete, I don't know anyone who has done it, but I have seen it in social media and so on, people that have moved. I can say that from my own experience, at least. Did I have a passion for product? No, I didn't. But I wanted to do things differently. And I think it's a good career move. I think it's a manageable career move. But if you also don't like doing all the things I said, all the talking, all the input collection, leaving testing behind, if you're not willing to do those things, I think there's people have better chances doing something else. I didn't start with a big love of I'm going to be a product manager either. I thought this is a good opportunity to do something different. But if they're not going to leave testing behind, because a big part of it you need to leave behind, no question, and the quality coaching stuff.
Agreed. Thank you.
You need to leave behind. If they don't want to do that, I think it's a bit of a sad career move.
And can you just, like, I know you mentioned a couple of books that you have read. Can you, if it's possible, can you just message those books in the chat, like for people who want to read those books and get some knowledge from those books about product and everything?
I think I can put.
I have it in the slides. I have added the list.
Yeah, and I think I can put it to YouTube video as a description, all these links. So it will be available.
Thanks, Anthony. That would be helpful. Thank you.
I'll repeat my question if we are talking about the books. For example, for the person who is willing to change the career path, what book you can recommend as a first book to understand the kitchen of product development, for people to know, like, is it my shoes or no, I should avoid it?
The first one that I read and I found useful was Escaping the Build Trap, the one I have in the slides, because that one, what resonated with me is that it describes how not to just build feature after feature after feature, but why it's better to build 1-2 things that make an impact rather than just keep on in the hamster wheel day after day, sprint after sprint. And that's why I found that a good fit. I said, okay, that what they Melissa Perri says in there for me makes sense. So I think it's a good book. It's about product management, career levels, how strategy can be rolled out in a company. And I thought, okay, this is interesting.
Thank you. I will definitely try it.
You're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for the answer. I will definitely try it. So, last call for questions. People, don't be shy.
Yes, please.
We're in a small.
It's not a big
community.
I just want to ask one question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I have a short question. I'm just a beginner in this role. I work as a product owner for about 2.5 months, and before that, I have experience as an entrepreneur. I had a manufacturing with wood. I made a wood toys. So this role is the first one. This my first role is in the world of IT, and I don't have any other experience in IT, and as a developer, as a tester, or nothing. And I want to ask you some your advices to me. Maybe you have some advices to me. Thank you.
For people without any background.
Yeah, for people without background. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what product you're working. Okay, an IT product. Learn, read. My first thing is read. Read if they have any documentation, read it. If they have any bug ticketing systems where people write their problems, read it. If they have the developer backlog, if they have anything already that was in place, read it. That's what I did. I started reading any presentations, whatever from the company, and say, okay, where are we? Read it, watch it. That's how I started. I was lucky enough that they gave me a bit of a buffer to understand what I'm doing, right? But it was reading, because in the reading, either you found things that you say, oh, but the product doesn't do it like this. Why? Is this big? But using your product, these two, reading and using the product in the beginning. That's the only thing. And take it slow, if you can. I'm not sure if you can.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. I would add, like, please skip marketing materials when you read.
Oh, no. Marketing materials are important, because marketing is, they say, but we don't have that. Why? there can be a reason behind the why, and then you ask the experienced people why, and you say, okay, good. But only by reading, then you start having questions, and by having questions and asking the people around you, you get a bit more in climate of what's happening. Even the marketing material. Oh, some truths there where you say, huh?
I'm joking. Yeah. Thank you.
And take it easy. It's not easy.
Okay, so looks like all questions are asked, right? And I think I'll turn presentation. Thank you very much for coming, Areti. I appreciate it.